Alright everybody, making a video for a challenge that Dustin Abraham put out. He wants us to show 10 of our favorite cards of our favorite team. The catch is you can only use one player one time. So for example, I can't pick like 5 Bernie Williams cards in my top 10. So what I was going to do, I was going to look through my Yankee binders and pick out like 10 of my favorite Yankee inserts. But I quickly realized that was pretty much impossible. There's just no way I could have cut it down to 10. So decided not to do that. But that's okay because it actually kind of gave me an idea for some other videos I can make with some of the stuff from these binders. So just kind of wanted to mention it just so this could serve kind of as a reason for me to actually stick to it and actually get it done. Maybe even have you guys kind of stay on me about it and remind me about it because there's a lot of cool stuff in these. But what I did decide to do for Dustin's challenge is pick 10 of my favorite Yankee autograph cards, which was also very difficult to do. Hence, that's why this is called a challenge, I guess. But I narrowed it down to 10. So let's see if I can get through these somewhat quickly. First off, pick this Bernie Williams autograph, which I've shown several times before. But there's a reason why I've shown it several times, because it definitely is one of my favorites. This was my first ever Bernie auto. And since getting this back in the late 90s, I've only seen like a handful of these ever pop up anywhere. So they're very difficult to find. So very happy to have one of those in my Yankee collection. Next is another card that I've shown multiple times. It is a Derek Jeter Fleer Autographics, which this was also my first Derek Jeter auto, and just always liked this year of Fleer Autographics, so very happy that one of my Jeter autos is from that set, so wanted to include that one. Next up is Jorge Posada. I have a few Posada autographs, but chose this one. First off, chose it because I just like the look of the card. Got the Puerto Rican flag right there. But main reason why I chose it was because I got this as a gift from Hard R Cards, who's also a Yankee fan and Posada fan, and he bought this for himself, and like a week later he sent it to me and said it was better off in my collection. So I'll just always remember that, so had to choose that one as my favorite Posada. And for Andy Pettitte, I have a few Pettitte Jeter dual autos, but this is my only Pettitte solo autograph, and had been wanting a Pettitte solo autograph for a long time, and a few years ago finally picked one up. Saw this on eBay and just fell in love with it. Just a really cool looking card. It's one of those cards that the camera really doesn't do it much justice. You can see the fingers through there. But yeah, very sweet looking card in person. So even if I end up picking up more Pettitte autos, it's going to be really tough to top that one. You might have noticed a bit of a theme with the first few. They were all guys that were on the Yankees in the 90s. Here's the one exception in this stack. Hideki Matsui on his 2003 SPX rookie auto jersey. I made a video for this about a year or two ago when I picked it up. First saw this his rookie year in a Beckett magazine and wanted it ever since, but those first few years couldn't afford it. And then when I could afford it, just couldn't find one that I liked at a price that was reasonable enough. Because some of them just have like a plain white jersey. I specifically wanted one with a pinstripe. And on some of them, for some reason, the signature can be kind of faded. So obviously didn't want one like that. So just kept it in mind, just kept looking for one through the years. And it took close to 20 years, but finally got one a few years ago. And so now every time I see this, it's just a good feeling knowing that I chased this for so long and that I now have one in the PC and don't have to worry about it anymore. This next one has 2 players on it, so it's kind of cheating, but not really because it's still one card. I'm still only going to show 10 cards. There you got Don Mattingly and Wade Boggs. When I first started following baseball and first started collecting baseball, these were 2 guys that were very popular. And Mattingly was like the first Yankee that I really liked a lot. And even Boggs, who wasn't here for that long, like a handful of years, but he had a nice career. So just a really cool card of two legends there. And what makes it even cooler is I pulled this from a box. So not only does this make the top 10 autograph list, but if I was doing a top 10 pulls list, I would definitely put that on there as well. This next one also has two players on it, but obviously showing it for the Yankee player. Although awesome card overall because it has one of my favorite Yankees, Tino Martinez, and one of my favorite Puerto Rican players, Roberto Alomar. So I remember buying this like in the late 90s. I think it was like 30 bucks, which doesn't seem like much now, but back then for me that was a lot. I probably had to save up for a few weeks to be able to get this. But I remember just feeling so fortunate that I had this because you had Alomar, who was a perennial all-star. You had Tino coming off of his big 44 home run season. So it was one of my favorite cards back then and still is. Even though I have some other Tino autos, which probably look better than this, but again, this one will always be my favorite. For these next two, I brought out a couple of slabbed cards, starting with this Mariano Rivera, which I think this was the first certified auto he ever had. And it's another one that I just remember seeing in the 90s and always wanted one, but it took me forever to get one. And I didn't send it in for grading. This just happened to be the one that I found at a reasonable price. But yeah, I do have another Mariano auto, but I always kind of lean towards that one. And this next one I love for many reasons. First off, loved Scott Brosius, such a clutch Yankee, consummate pro on and off the field. Just fit in perfectly with those 90s Yankees. But also, for any Yankee collector that knows their stuff, these are really difficult to find. I think this might be the only certified auto that Brosius has as a Yankee, which makes it tough enough. But another thing is this is one of the short prints from this set, so that makes it even tougher. So I think a lot of these are already in Yankee personal collections, so they just don't come out very often. So again, it's another one of those that I just feel like fortunate to have because as a 90s Yankee collector, I feel like I needed a Scott Brosius in the collection, so got this about a handful of years ago, and it's almost like just like a sense of relief that I have one of these because now I don't have to go looking for one in today's crazy market. Again, it was tough to really choose just 10. Had to cut a few out at the last minute, but chose to go with this one as my last one. Auto of Don Zimmer, who was Joe Torre's bench coach during the 90s teams. And I always say it was almost like having two managers during that time because he helped Joe Torre out a lot. And credit to Joe Torre because he didn't let his ego get in the way. Like if Zimmer would question one of his moves or if he would suggest something else, Torre would often listen to him. So it was just really good for those Yankee teams to have two really smart baseball minds in the dugout like that. And so much like Scott Brosius, it's damn near impossible to find a certified Yankee auto of him. Was looking for one for years and couldn't find one. Then a couple years ago, saw this one listed on COMC and put money into my account right away and bought it, and haven't seen another one since. So just another one that was an absolute must for my 90s Yankees PC, and another one that I'm happy I got out of the way because, again, just can't find them anymore. So there you go. Those were the 10 that I chose for today. If I was going to do this again next week, I'd probably choose 10 different cards. Or maybe not. Some of these would probably always be in the top 10. But that's all for now. Catch you all again next time.